Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan M.S. Pierce. This is a US politics video where I'm going to go through what's going on with the US economy, with the trade war with the rest of the world, and then look at things going on inside the United States as they slide ever more towards autocracy. We have to start with Harry Enton getting typically incredibly energetic about statistics, talking about how at this point in Trump's presidency, the S&P 500 stock exchange is at the lowest in its history, or has had the biggest drop, in its history, and talking about Trump's popularity and saying the polls are all going in the wrong direction. I'm not going to actually show you that because I'm showing you a more recent one. That's from a few days ago. Actually, today, Fox News has released a poll, and Fox News polling is pretty good, by the way. I forget who they do it with, but anyway, here's a number of polls: Fox News, Ipsos, Reuters, and Pew Research, that show some pretty horrific numbers for Trump. So overall approval for Donald Trump, according to Fox News, he is 11% underwater, 55% disapprove, 44% approve. On immigration, he's 1% underwater. So that should be his strongest hand. And there are still, is there not 53% of people think that Garcia should be brought back from El Salvador? So there are Republicans who are saying he's doing the immigration thing wrong and it's too harsh. Foreign policy, 14% underwater, 40% approve, 54% disapprove. Economy, 38% approve, 56% disapprove. Wow. So that is 18% underwater. Incredible. Tariffs, 33% approve, 58% disapprove. That is a 25% underwater statistic there for tariffs. Inflation, 33% approve, 59%. So my goodness, 26% underwater on inflation. That's Fox News. Then we've got Ipsos, where there's a 11% disapproval of his overall stats, overall tenure. Economy, there is a 14% disapproval. Wow. Immigration, there is a 1% disapproval as well. And then Pew Research, a 19% underwater on general overall approval rates. Tariffs are 20% underwater. Doge cuts are 11% underwater. And economy, 10% underwater. These are some seriously bad polls for Donald Trump. And his team will be looking at them, no doubt, very closely because the writing is on the wall for his popularity at the moment. And okay, so how does that change? So he's going to be riding on this being the first 100 days, and there's not a lot you can do to him. But the November 2026 midterm elections are getting ever closer. Of course, they're still a long way away, but it's certainly enough to give the Democrats some ammunition to attack Trump with, although we don't seem to hear too much from them at the moment, or not enough, you could argue.
Poll of registered voters finds that Trump's overall approval rating is now underwater. 44%, that's right, only 44% approve the job he's doing, while 55% disapprove.
And that's the MSNBC reporting on that. I wonder what Fox News have said about that. Here on Fox News, we have economic advisor Robert Wolf blasting Trump on Fox News, saying this is probably the biggest manufactured crisis I've seen with a bunch of unforced errors. Wow. So this is a Wall Street Journal opinion piece that they are referencing. Is Trump a tyrant or a savior? Maybe just a bumbler. The goals of his second term are ambitious, but so far the execution has been strikingly incompetent. Wow. And that's the Murdoch-run Wall Street Journal being reported on the Murdoch-run Fox News.
I don't know, Robert. Some of the people we talked to say incompetence probably the wrong word. Unclear might be a better word. What do you say?
I mean, I've been in finance for 40 years. This is probably the biggest manufactured crisis I've seen, with a bunch of unforced errors. The execution of Liberation Day was pathetic. I mean, you have Kevin Hassett in 2019 be very clear: trade wars are bad, tariffs are a tax. Steve Moore, another Trump advisor: trade wars are bad, tariffs are a tax. The GOP: tariffs are a tax, trade wars are bad, we're for free trade. You saw April until for the most part, the president blinked both on Fed Chairman Powell, which I'm glad, as well as the China trade war. Then the markets recovered somewhat, but it was on for the worst month since 1932. And that's not even considering what's going on with bonds, where there has been an incredible lack of confidence in the U.S. dollar and U.S. investments. So
I don't know, Robert.
And there has been some bouncing back into stock markets because Trump has blinked, as he mentioned there. Trump has reneged on the things he claimed he was going to be doing, and that is because the markets have been spooked, and also an awful lot of people, CEOs, spooked as well. I think Anthony Scaramucci was saying the other day in a video that he knows a whole bunch of CEOs that are that close to being public about their disapproval of Trump. And it could be that Trump's just in time saved himself by doing a complete 180 shift on many of these tariff situations and positions. So Ursula von der Leyen has said countries are ready to work with reliable trading partners in Europe after Trump has imposed general trade tariffs. In recent weeks, she has spoken to the leaders of Iceland, New Zealand, Malaysia, Philippines, Canada, India, and the UAE, who are looking for strong, reliable partners, she says, and stresses that Europe's stability is evident in the face of such turmoil. She said trust in the EU is growing, particularly among citizens of the bloc itself, and she cited a Eurobarometer survey according to which support for EU membership has reached 74%, the highest level in over 40 years. And what's interesting here, and this is a rally round a flag effect, is the more that Trump attacks the EU and the more that Russia attack the EU, the more the EU will unite together around a common identity and a common set of goals. Now, Trump has come out and said the tariffs on China won't be as high as 145%. It'll come down substantially, but won't be zero, he said. And the walk back has begun. Well, that was going back to the 22nd. Trump has blinked again, says Spencer Hakimian. Well, that's continued. So this is part of the walk back. This is Trump in the White House.
And our country is getting stronger all the time because the other was not sustainable.
Started with China. Are you going to play hardball with them?
Are you going to play hardball with China?
I'm not going to say, no, I'm not going to mention COVID. I'm not going to play hardball with China. I'm going to play hardball with you, President Xi. No. We're going to be very nice. They're going to be very nice, and we'll see what happens. But
I'm not going to mention COVID. I'm not going to play hardball with China. So he's really explicit there. So he's going soft on China, in his own words, really.
But ultimately, they have to make a deal because otherwise they're not going to be able to deal in the United States. And we want tariffs, and our country is getting strong.
So the question is, are they doing a deal? Are they that worried? I was just looking, I wasn't going to show you this, but I was looking at this earlier, just one of these kind of memes. And it's the idea that, it's up to China now. China, they're going to have to contact us. They're going to have to do a deal because, they're going to be worried, etc., etc. That's the implication and the statements you're hearing from Trump. Well, as someone points out here, Trump tariffs China and ups the tariffs to 34%. China did nothing. Trump hikes the tariffs to 84%. China responds with matching tariffs. Trump hikes it to 145%. China responds with matching tariffs. Trump says that he wants Xi to call him. China does nothing. Trump says he's ready to make a deal. China does nothing. Trump rolls back the tariffs. And the reason he rolls back the tariffs is because all of the economists and all of the business leaders in the United States and all the people interested in stock markets and bond markets are saying, what are you doing? It's going nuts. So here's another quote from Trump in the White House.
Treasury Secretary suggested that with the tariff rates as high as they are now, it's effectively an embargo of trade.
So the question is this effectively an embargo, these high?
45% is very high, and it won't be that high. It's not going to be that high. It got up to there. We were talking about fentanyl, where, various elements built it up to 145. No, it won't be anywhere near that high. It'll come down substantially, but it won't be zero. It used to be zero. We were just destroyed. China was taking us for a ride, and just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We're going to be very good to China. I have a great relationship with President Xi, but
China was taking us for a ride by selling us cheap goods that we wanted to buy off them for that money. How dare you sell me that for the price that I want to pay for it? How dare you? Ah, you're cheating us. You're cheating us. Can I have this cheap stuff? Or can I have this iPhone for that much money? Ah, you bastards. I can't believe you're doing this. Yeah, can I have more of them? Can I have like 100,000 more of them? You bastards. More, please. You gits. Oh, yeah. You cheats. More. Thank you, more. Got a clue what he's talking about.
They would make billions and billions and billions of dollars a year, and they would build their military out of the United States and what they made. So that won't happen, but they're going to do very well. And I think they're going to be happy, and I think we're going to live together very happily. And
it's like listening to a child. It's like a 7-year-old's approach to, like, now you're president, little Donny. What are you going to say about China? Oh, we're going to live happily ever after, and I think they'll be happy, and we're going to be together. I can't use big words, so only small words.
Very well, and I think they're going to be happy, and I think we're going to live together very happily, and ideally work together. So I think it's going to work out very well. But no, it's at 145%. It will not be anywhere near that number.
He just always speaks in vaguenesses. I've said this previously when analysing his speech patterns, but he's never one to express granular detail about anything there. And just, oh yeah, we're going to be very happy together. Things are going to be great. Yeah, it's going to be great. Yeah, absolutely wonderful. Okay, brilliant. That tells us nothing. And then you get all these sort of memes. Trump, the art of the cave. Inside look at how... I don't know what it says under there. Something to do with cavemen or something. But anyway, yeah, the art of the cave. The transactional cave. Okay, so it appears that Trump has backed down then on his position on China.
We'll see what happens, but ultimately they have to make a deal because otherwise they're not going to be able to deal in the United States. So we want them involved, but they have to, and other countries have to make a deal. And if they don't make a deal, we'll set the deal because we're the ones that set the deal. Scott and Howard and myself and others, we're going to be setting the deal, and it'll be a fair deal for everybody, and it'll be, I think it's a process.
Is that a fair deal, like putting 10% tariffs on people that have a trade surplus with you, even though they've got a surplus rather than a deficit? Is that kind of fairness you're talking about?
It's going to go pretty quickly. We've spoken to many, many countries, and we're getting their views on things. You know, there are a lot of things. They have VAT taxes. They have everything you can have. Don't forget, as an example, the European Union was set up to take advantage of the United States. That's why it was set, and they've done that. But
he's rambling nonsensically, and we know that's not true. So it's just not true what he's saying. But the point there is about talking about setting up deals, and China are going to have to do this deal. Otherwise, we're going to set the deal. So the Trump administration is considering reducing high tariffs on Chinese imports to 50 to 65% instead of the previously imposed 145%. So that's walking back those exceptionally high tariff rates. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says, I would not be surprised if tariffs with China went down to in a mutual way. China talks will have to take place at lower levels than Trump and Xi. Full China trade deal may take 2 to 3 years. We are very close to a tariff deal with India. So he's saying, okay, we're going to have to do these deals, but probably below the level of Trump and Xi. And then Caroline Leavitt, the spokesperson for the White House, says that the Trump stance on China is not softening. When asked what the timetable is for the reduction of tariffs on China, she says, let me be clear, there'll be no unilateral reduction of tariffs against China. This is the art of the deal. Trump is using the leverage of the US to bring countries to the negotiating table. So the question is that what's going on with China? Well, China have just come out today and said China calls Trump's claims that the two nations have been talking about a trade deal fake news. In fact, I could show you a video of the Chinese foreign minister talking about this. But China says there are no ongoing talks with the US, and they've just called for the US to cancel unilateral tariffs. It's ridiculous, and the Trump administration just appears to be full of lies and half-truths about what's actually going on. Just incredible. So there don't appear to be any trade deals, discussions taking place between China and the United States. Spencer Hakamian says, Do you realise how absolutely effing disgusting this is? Treasury Secretary tells a closed-door meeting of hedge funds, pensions and endowments that the tariffs are going to be massively scaled back. Financial media reports on it hours after the fact, and as stocks were ripping all morning long on zero positive news at all. And then the president confirms all of Bessent's statements after the market closes for the day. But sure, Main Street, not Wall Street. In other words, the way that these things are being announced just needs to be investigated. There's insider trading. There's all sorts going on here. As Bessent there speaks to in a closed door meeting to a bunch of people who no doubt have gone out and then reacted on the stock markets. Now, what also happened, and this is really, I think, what's underwriting the walk back of many of the tariffs, is that it's going to affect retailers and corporate entities inside the United States, obviously. This was reported in Axios. The CEOs of three of the nation's biggest retailers, Walmart, Target and Home Depot, privately warned. So there's a closed-door meeting with them. And apparently they said they just showed all the ways that the tariffs are going to screw over the business. You know, actually walking through data and stats. Privately warned him that his tariff and trade policy could disrupt supply chains, raise prices and empty shelves. According to sources familiar with the meeting, the big box CEOs flat out told him the prices aren't going up, they're steady right now, but they will go up. And this wasn't about food, but he was told that shelves will be empty. An administration official familiar with the meeting told Axios. Another official briefed on the meeting said the CEOs told Trump disruptions could become noticeable in 2 weeks. And so it's no surprise that you get that walk back. And this is what CNN had to say about it.
But get this, we are also reporting today that a group of CEOs of the top American retailers, Walmart, Target, Home Depot, and Lowe's, had a private meeting with Trump on Monday. They had plenty to say, but there was one warning that stuck out. Empty shelves, they said. Empty shelves in American stores as soon as this summer because of Trump's actions.
What is that meeting in the Oval Office on Monday that we learned about, and other reporters did as well, that really apparently caught the president's attention? And I am told that business leaders, the Business Roundtable and others have been reaching out to White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles and other advisors here, trying to get a meeting with the president, trying to convey to him in real terms the real fallout of some of this uncertainty, some of these tariff policies. And it was that empty shelves comment, we are told, that really caught the president's attention. Of course, you can see why. The whole idea that we would have an interruption in the supply chain, sort of like we all saw in the pandemic, simply because of his policies, is something that would be difficult for the White House to endure. So that is one of the reasons we are told that he changed his posture. It's interesting.
So there you go. Seems to be the reason that Donald Trump did his volte-face regarding his tariff postures. So when Walmart, Target and Home Depot all say this dude's bad for business, believe them. CEOs of Walmart, Target and Home Depot met privately and complained about those situations. And we saw Trump change his mind. And then we have these two analysts and investors in the stock markets saying the following.
One thing you just talked about, that everybody needs to come together and start share. Look, this has been a problem of messaging from the beginning, right? Or whether it's the president, the reason that the market took the hit it did was all about the way that they disseminated the information from the beginning. If they had come into the market, markets can handle virtually anything if they're given it, if it's being fed to them in a way that they can
manage and project.
They can manage it, except this was almost a perfect storm. I don't think anything changed from yesterday, except maybe there's some happy dust that was dropped over the White House, because suddenly everybody changed their tune. Bessent came out and said that, you know what, that this aggressive negative narrative around tariffs is unsustainable. And if we don't, almost accepting responsibility, right, that we've messaged wrong, and we're going to have to change that to change everything. And then Elon Musk, he doesn't care that he lost $73 billion, because That's been happening for a while.
Right.
It's almost as if everybody, whether it's, it's almost like a bipolar person who took their medication. Everybody came out with a completely different message today. The president did it, Elon Musk did it, and Bessent did it. And the market read all of that, and it responded favorably. It's a huge difference
But
from one day to
the whipsaw is insane.
But I would add to Tuchman, I think he did a great job. The walls are caving in. Because at the end of the day, the 10-year, the dollar, gold, markets, how many deals on the table? 0. So you could talk.
Trade deals you're talking about.
Trade deals.
Yep.
So you could talk, and that's why you're seeing, as you talked about, trying to get data out, because at the end of the day, the market is basically
so
saying.
they're suddenly listening to all the, to your point, they're suddenly listening to everything that's been said, and they are pivoting.
Yeah.
This is a major pivot.
It is a pivot.
It's a 1,000-point
I agree
market
with you.
pivot, and it's a 1,000-point messaging pivot from all three of these people.
So really significant change in approach as they've got their fingers burnt, right? But then remember that Trump previously had been talking about Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, the chair of the Federal Reserve. So I don't want to talk about that because I have no intention of firing him, even though he had previously said that Powell's termination cannot come fast enough. No intention of firing him now. So we have two different Trumps. Why? Because he has had his fingers burnt.
I don't want to talk about that because I have no intention of firing him.
You have no intention of firing Jerome Powell because your economic advisor Kevin Hassett a few days ago said that you and people in the White House were studying this idea of possibly doing it before his term ends.
No.
Do you have any plans on doing it?
None whatsoever. Never did. The press runs away with things. No, I have no intention of firing him. I would like to see him be a little more active in terms of his idea to lower interest rates. This is a perfect time to lower interest rates. If he doesn't, is it the end? No, it's not. But it would be good timing. It could have taken place earlier. But no, I have no intention to fire him.
Posting on Truth Social that Powell is too late and wrong, calling on the Fed to cut interest rates. Trump adding that Powell's termination cannot come fast enough.
In other words, he had kind of said that, and he's gone against his previous words because the only way you can interpret his termination cannot come fast enough. He's the only one that can terminate him, and even then he can't terminate him actually. So it could be that he was told that he can't do that, legally speaking, or it could be that will be overstretched, or it would send the markets absolutely haywire. And so Trump has really calmed down his rhetoric in line with his kind of general changing of opinion on, or changing of stance on tariffs. You've got Zero Hedge and these other really, really pro-Trump accounts. This is a Zero Hedge is, you can go and see the Wikipedia page for Zero Hedge, pro-Russian, pro-Trump, China apparently has three options, and this is what was written at the beginning of April, right? China has three options at the beginning of the trade war. 1, concede defeat to whatever terms Trump demands. 2, devalue the yuan by 20 to 40%. 3, unleash the biggest fiscal stimulus in the history, talking $2 to $3 trillion, which will push its debt off the chart. And of course, none of that had to happen. In fact, China did very little. The US conceded, backed down, blinked, because actually a trade war with China was a trade war where the other side had all the cards. And I did a video on this saying that China had all the cards. As Brian Krasenstein said yesterday, Trump signals a possible softening on Chinese tariffs, China is escalating the pressure. According to the Korean economic daily, Beijing has warned South Korean firms not to export products containing Chinese rare earth minerals, to US defense contractors. Wow. So actually China is still being pretty hardcore in their approach to this trade war. It seems that the US has blinked. It seems that Donald Trump has had his fingers burned. The question is, where do you go now? I would like to see other nations actually not do trade deals with the US because those trade deals appear to be fairly lopsided. It's going to be interesting to see the UK particularly what trade deal we're going to end up signing with the US. I just wish we weren't signing a trade deal because I'm fairly sure the US will take advantage of our relatively weak position globally speaking, and I'm sure a deal would be in the best interest of the US and not so much for the UK. But anyway, be interested to see how that turns out. Right, I'm going to leave it there and actually do my kind of US political video a slightly different time and just separate the economics from the politics. But even though that's very hard to do. Let me know what you think about the trade war, and let me know what you think about Donald Trump and his administration appearing to blink. Just to let you know, there are things to add to this, such as Elon Musk and Scott Bessent. So Elon Musk, we know who he is. Scott Bessent is the Treasury Secretary, had a stand-up row in the White House they had to have like aides kind of calm it all down, and I believe that was about tariffs. We've had Elon Musk say publicly now that he's still for Trump and he's very supportive of Trump, but is not so keen on tariffs, and that's because for his particular line of business or businesses, tariffs are an absolute headache for him. In fact, they could ruin him. So he is certainly against tariffs, but has to play that one very carefully because he's right in the middle of the White House. But it seems to have ended up in a bit of an argument between him and the Treasury Secretary. But yeah, certainly lots of people arguing, I think, in the corridors of power over the Trump economic policy. Let me know what you think. Take care. Speak soon.